Well, welcome to the Saturday afternoon safari. Aren't we all excited to be out and about in the African bush? We are in Kenya with a herd of Topi that we've been watching for about 5 hours. We're waiting for them to try cross the river. Every time they get close to the river, they spot a crocodile and decide it's too dangerous to go. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and I have my good friend Manu on camera. And remember, if you want to send us any questions, get your parents to send them through to us. We would love to hear from you. Okay, I'm going to stick with this Topi herd for the next while. We've been watching them, as I said, for about 5 hours, and they've been thinking and umming and ahhing about crossing the river constantly, but they haven't managed to build up enough courage to do it just yet. Big herd of Topi. They sort of walk right to the water's edge, then turn around and come back and forwards and back and forwards. But it is very dangerous to cross. That's why they think long and hard before they do it, because of all the crocodiles in the river. Well, while the Topi are still thinking about what they're going to do next, let's go show you what a big Nile crocodile looks like. Any crocodiles down here? No. But there should be some over here. There we go. Look at that. That is a monstrosity. There's a nice big crocodile. And of course, very dangerous if you are a Topi. You might get snacked upon as you try to swim. Now, the animals cross the river quite regularly while they're looking for better grazing, and sometimes it is a bit confusing why they need to cross it so many times. You would think the grass is just as good on this side, but the grass always seems to be greener on the other side. So the crocodiles actually wait for this time of the year. Some of them won't eat at all till this time next year, when the migration and the animals crossing the river comes back. They might snack on the odd catfish in the river. Now, what are those Topi doing? Well, I'm going to play the patience game here at the river with the Topi and the crocodiles. Let's send you back across to South Africa to my good friend James, who wants to say howdy doody.
How do you do? Hello everybody and welcome to this drive. We are sitting with some Impala here in the Western Kruger National Park. We're on a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name is James, and it would be lovely to hear from you, and you can tell your parents to send us emails on natgeokids@wildearth.tv. That's natgeokids@wildearth.tv. On camera today is Senzo Ngiza, who comes from KwaZulu-Natal, and I see that he's cut his nails especially for this very special kid safari. So that's what's happening today. We are going to be looking for leopards, but over there we've got something that leopards might like to eat. Those are, of course, Impala, and they're very thirsty. And the question is, why are they not going towards the water? What is making them nervous about going towards the water? And the answer is that there could be a predator around the water. Very often you will find that predators know that their prey will get thirsty eventually, and so they lurk around the water, they wait there, and if the impala go down, and if they're not careful and they put their heads down to drink, the predators could strike and grab one of them. So that's why we're sitting here patiently to see if maybe there's a predator waiting there. It's a hot day. It's probably around about 85 degrees Fahrenheit or so, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. And we are in the dry season, which means that these animals have to come to the same waterholes to drink. So let's see carefully if they go down and they have something to drink, or if they have a panic and move away because maybe there's a predator there. See how nervous they are to go and drink? Right, there's one brave chap going towards the water. Let's see what he does. While we wait and see what he does, Tristan, who's our other friend, Brent, Tristan and I are out today. He has got a very large, tall, huge, spectacular animal.
We do indeed. We have a very, very big giraffe bull, and he is standing ever so tall in the early African afternoon sun. It's a hot, hot day here in South Africa, and so much like those impalas going towards water, our giraffe is actually at water itself. It's coming for a little bit of a drink. Now, as Brent mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera I've got David, and it is a very warm welcome to all of you this afternoon, and I hope that you are going to have the most fun as we explore all of the little wilderness out here in South Africa and Kenya. Now, this giraffe, I was saying, has come for water. So you see there's a little pan there. Actually, it's difficult to see the water, but you'll see that there's a little kind of reflection, and this water is very, very fresh water. It's actually pumped water that comes out of a borehole, which is basically something that is dug down into the ground, and there's seep from the ground, and then it's then put up on top of the water, or on top of the earth's surface, and it means that that water is very good to drink. And so the giraffe will come down and they will have a long drink around these areas. Now, the thing about a giraffe, though, is that when it drinks, it's very difficult to drink. It's not an easy way to get down there. It's very tall, it's very, very big, and so getting down to where the water is takes a lot of effort. And so what giraffe do often is that they'll stand like this, they'll look around first, make sure that there's no sign of any lions or leopards that could be around, and then they'll start to kind of think about how they're going to drink. And normally what will happen is that you'll find that they'll spread their front legs and they'll open them very, very wide, and then they'll start to bend their front legs and drop their head down towards the water itself, and then they'll take a nice drink. And their drinking is normally very, very quick, and the reason why they drink quickly is because that long neck takes a lot of energy to pull that neck down, unlike with us where we hold our head up and our neck stays straight, and when we fall asleep our neck goes down. I don't know if you've ever fallen asleep in the car or somewhere like that where your whole neck just kind of flops downwards towards your chest. Well, with a giraffe that doesn't work like that. When a giraffe sleeps, in fact this one actually looks like he might be sleeping, its neck stays dead straight like it is now, and it actually has to push to get its neck down, and so when it drinks it can't hold it there for too long, and then has to kind of pop back up. Also, it knows when it's drinking that it's very unsafe, and because it can't see very nicely, and so just short little quick drink, and then pops its head up and then back down again until it's had enough water. Now, you may have also noticed that there was a bird that was flying about and landing on this giraffe. Now, that's called a red-billed oxpecker. And a red-billed oxpecker basically is there to kind of clean this giraffe. It's a personal cleaning service, and so it goes and gets off all the little ticks and various other things. Now, Crystal, how do we tell giraffes apart? Well, it depends. I mean, do you mean different species, or do you mean individual giraffes? If it's individual giraffes, every single giraffe has a different pattern. So if you look on the body of this animal, you'll see that it's got all these different kind of blotches, dark markings with little light patches in between, and so that will be different on every giraffe, like our fingerprints. So you can identify a different giraffe. In terms of the different species, well, they all look a little bit different. So hopefully Brent will find a Masai giraffe for you up in Kenya, because they are different to the giraffe that we see here. This is the southern giraffe, and our giraffe here has very kind of mottled bodies. All those little blocks are irregular and different, whereas the Masai has these ones that have almost little fingers that come off of their blocks, and a very, very beautiful giraffe in Kenya that they have. So, that's how we tell the difference. And to tell the difference between male and female, well, we know this is a male. One, because if you look on top of his head there, you see he's got these little stumpy bones that are sticking out of his head. Now, those are there, and you'll find in a male, they'll be very thick and round, and they'll have a lot of kind of density to them, and the top will be almost bald. Whereas the females are very, very small on top there, very thin, and so that immediately tells you male and female. Also, in front of those two little horns, you'll find that there's a bump on the top of the head. Now that bump is basically a calcification of the skull. So what calcification means is where there's calcium deposits, and so the bone actually gets thicker on top of the head as the giraffe gets older. And it's interesting because at 7 years old, a giraffe is fully grown. It's as big as it's going to be. It's not going to grow any bigger. But by the time it reaches 14, even though the body has not changed at all, its skull and its head will weigh twice as much as it does at 7 years old because of that calcification or that bony deposit that is happening on top of the head. And the reason for that is because from 7 to 14 and then going forward until the giraffe gets to about 20, because that's about how long they live for out here, they will be fighting for mating rights. So they're fighting for girls, and they use that big head with these bumps on top to whack each other and hit each other in order to establish who is the most dominant of the giraffe. And so it's a very clever way to do it. You can see there's the oxpecker that's busy feeding, just trying to get rid of any little ticks maybe that's on there, mites, and they groom through that fur, and they'll try and grab them with these scissor-like little beaks. They're very, very cool. They keep the giraffe excessively clean. They'll find that they really grab everything that's on these giraffe, and the giraffe need it because they're so tall. It's very difficult for them to clean between their legs and around their tail. Viraz, how long can a giraffe get? Well, I mean, in terms of how tall they can get, a giraffe can stand at about about 6 meters as a male like this, which is very, very tall, and in feet I think it's about 27 feet if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there, which is massive. It's a huge animal, but you can see that its body is actually very small. The giraffe mostly is neck and legs, and so those legs and neck allow it to be able to not only see very far to spot predators, but it allows the giraffe to get to food that other animals can't get to. Now, to the back right of where that giraffe is, there's some trees, and you'll see them in the background there. They got a yellow flower on them at the moment. So just where the giraffe is kind of looking towards, behind it, there's those trees with those yellow flowers. There we go, those ones over there. Now those yellow flowers are growing on a tree called a knobthorn, and there's very few animals that can reach that. That tree is very tall, but a giraffe can, and that is one of the giraffe's favorite foods. And so that's why it's as tall as it is it means that it's got its own niche, and so it's not having too much competition in order to find food, because once they come down lower, and if they were the same size as many of the antelope out here, and much like some of the deer that maybe you guys see in the States, well, then you would find that the giraffe would have a lot of competition. So now it's able to kind of be up, and it's able to feed where there's no other animals, which is very, very, very cool for the giraffe, and means that they've generally got quite a lot of food in their favor. And the giraffe will be very happy now, because as these knobthorns start to flower, that flower is very tasty, full of nectar, smells very sweet. And we're in our winter months. As you can see, it looks very dry, doesn't it? A lot of the trees don't have leaves on them, and there's not much food around, and hasn't been for the last 4 months. And so these giraffe are going to be very happy, because that knobthorn is the sign of spring, and it's spring day, so happy spring day actually to everybody. And that means that these guys are slowly but surely going to get more and more food coming their way as the summer comes, because our rains will soon come, and when the rains come, then it's a time of plenty for the giraffe and various other animals that live out here. So I'm sure they're pretty excited that these things are going. Now, this particular giraffe, I think, is actually just having a little sleep. He's not going to drink just yet. Looks as though his eyes are actually closed, and it's quite interesting because giraffe don't sleep for very long periods of time at all. You'll find with giraffe that they only spend probably about 20 minutes in a 24-hour day sleeping. Now, I know you might think that's crazy, because for us as people, we require 6 to 8 hours of sleep a day in order for our brains to function effectively, whereas with a giraffe, they only do 20 minutes of deep sleep a day. And the reason why is because obviously a lot of predators out here makes it very difficult. So they will try and not spend too much time asleep, because otherwise they're very vulnerable, and they could then potentially be killed. So it's a very short period of time that they're actually sleeping for, which is quite amazing. But it does look like this giraffe is having a good nap, and you can see it's sleeping standing up, which is pretty cool. As a lot of the antelopes do this, and they have to, because otherwise if they lie down, then they are going to be exposed. So chatwa, they are an ungulate, which basically means a hoofed animal. And so you will see there that they have 2 hooves, basically. It's a cloven hoof that comes off of their foot. And so much like most of the antelope species, you'll have that split kind of foot that goes down. And so it's not a structure like our feet or something like an elephant or, even rhinos, those kind of things that have a fleshy pad to the bottom. They have a capped hoof, and that just protects that foot from walking around all over the place. And out here there's a lot of thorns, there's a lot of rocks and things, and so they've got to be able to protect their feet, and those hooves are basically like shoes for the giraffe, and they wear down as they go. It's because they walk around every single day, they don't lie up too much, those get worn, and they're able to then not worry about them growing too long. But essentially they have a hoof, not a foot structure like you would typically see on the rest of us. What's quite interesting, actually, David, can I ask you to go back onto his front knees for me, please? Because I want to just have a little look at something. Now, you see there on his front knees, he's got a bit of damage to them. It looks like he's got a bit of skin missing there. I wonder if he hasn't either been attacked by something like lions or hyenas, or maybe, just maybe, he fell somewhere. Now, it does happen sometimes that giraffe do fall. It's not often, but he had slipped somewhere and just taken a bit of skin off his front leg, but it looks like quite a big damage. You can see there's another cut a little bit above the knee as well, so maybe lions tried to hunt them. The lions in this area don't often go after giraffes, so it would be very interesting if that was the case. Anyway, very, very cool to see. Don't know what's caused that, but he definitely has a little injury in that area. It's healing though, so he'll be just fine. Right, now we're saying that the giraffe faces lots and lots of threats, and most of the threats that come from these kind of areas is the biggest of the big cats, and that is the form of the lions. And it sounds like Brent up in Kenya's Masai Mara has found some of those toothy critters to show all of you.
Well, here we have two very lazy lions lying in a little bit of shade from the grass there. Now that big male lion on the right, you can see his big mane. He is one of the most famous lions in the world. His name is Scarface, and he's got a very distinct scar, and he's got a girlfriend with him today. So we're not going to stay with them too long, in case they do something naughty. And we don't want to look at sleeping lions. We want to look at awake lions. So I heard there were some more lions just down the road. So I'm going to go see if we can find them. Well, another male lion. And it sounds like he might have caught himself some dinner. But we will stop and have a look at whatever wonderful thing we might find on the way as you go. Remember, this is 100% live. And remember, kids, ask your mom and dad to send your questions through. I would love to hear from you. Okay. What are we going to see next? I think we're going to see a Thompson's gazelle next. Another one of the antelope species. Kaj wants to know, could we build safe bridges for the animals to cross the river? But then, Kaj, what would the crocodiles eat? The crocodiles need to eat too. And if we put bridges that the animals could walk over, the crocodiles wouldn't get their food. So I'm sure it's possible, but we wouldn't, because we don't want to interfere with nature. Okay, where are the Thompson's gazelles hiding? I think just up ahead on the next open plain. Okay, well, I'm going to keep checking if we can find you some more animals. In the meantime, let's send you back to South Africa with my friend James.
Hello, we are still trying to find some leopards and things out here, But, well, let's just have a quick look at something rather interesting. Just listening quickly to the radio. Okay, he's talking too much. Now, what do you suppose this is? Interestingly, it's an animal that we don't see very much. It's an animal that is in great trouble in the world today. And this animal is, of course, the white rhinoceros. How do I know this? Well, I know this because it's black. You can see it's got a blackish colour to it. And unlike elephant dung, which looks very similar, it's only got pieces of grass in it. It has no sticks and no leaves from the trees in it, because the white rhinoceros only eats grass. Now we're going to have a smell. It also smells very different from elephant dung. Elephant dung smells quite sweet. It smells like you've gone to your mother's spice rack, taken off the bottle of mixed spices, tipped it onto your hand, and that's what it smells like. This smells like mushrooms. It smells like rotting vegetation. It smells very nutritious, but doesn't smell quite as good as elephant dung. And this rhino, of course, is hiding somewhere around here, probably not too close by, because this dung is quite old. Alrighty, let's keep looking around. Now, it was around here that we thought maybe the leopards were. So we're going to look very carefully, and when it's hot like this, leopards, of course, are going to be lying under the bushes, trying to stay cool. They might also be lying in the dry riverbeds, so we'll drive very slowly around here and see if we don't get quite lucky. Yes, indeed, Wello Wanderer, you are absolutely correct. You say I have my Saturday shorts on. I most certainly do, in celebration of Nat Geo Kids. I have my Saturday shorts on. I wore them for the television shows we've just done as well. And, well, on the very last show, the executive producer saw them, and I think he had a small heart attack. Anyway, I think he's recovered from that. I hope he has anyway. Let's hope he doesn't have a freak out next time he sees them. I think they're really wonderful. They've got all sorts of South African sayings on them, and pictures of scenes from South Africa. Thank you. Emma says they are very jazzy. I think they are very jazzy. Right, Tristan very cleverly has remained with his giraffe. Let's go and find out if it's going to go and have a drink.
I'm afraid not. I don't think so, because it's first time for lunch. So our giraffe, as you can see, is starting to have a little bit of a feed. It's starting to eat the new flowers that are coming out onto that tree. Those flowers haven't blossomed just yet, but little buds are there, and so that is food for this giraffe. And you'll see a giraffe feeds in a very cool way. I always love watching them. So they have this very long face that they stick into a tree, and the advantage of a long face like that is that most of the trees that they feed off, like that knobthorn that we were talking about earlier, that knobthorn has very sharp thorns on it, and so the long face just helps to keep the eyes away from those thorns, and they have long eyelashes that also protect the eyes. It's a very clever system, and what they're able to do is then reach up, and they have a very long tongue. Now I'm hoping that this giraffe is going to stick its tongue out for us to be able to see, because their tongue is about 30 centimeters long, which is very, very long. It's almost the length of my forearm, so between my elbow and my hand. And what they do is they then stick it up if they can't reach something, and they wrap their tongue around, and then they pull. Now I was saying that there's thorns, and so that means their tongue has to be a little bit different and fleshy, and if you bite your tongue it's very, very sore, and let alone if you try and eat thorns. And so with these guys, what they've got is they've got lots of little growths on their tongue, basically, so little dimples that are all over it, and those are areas of thickened skin that lack nerve endings and blood vessels, and it allows the giraffe to basically wrap its tongue around without really getting any damage, so their mouth doesn't bleed, and they can eat the most thorniest of thorn trees and get to the really good flowers. And the reason why they want to do that is because any tree that's got thorns is basically a tree that has sought to protect itself. So because its flowers are so tasty, everything wants to eat it. It has to grow thorns in order for the other animals to stop being able to come and feed off it, and that's why it has them. And so the giraffe has now bypassed that system. But there we go. Look at that. Isn't it a beautiful animal to watch walking around? They're so graceful. Now what I want you to look at is when it's walking, look at its legs. Now you see how its legs are moving? Both left legs, then both right legs. Both left legs, then both right legs. Now that's very different to all of the other animals that walk out here. The other animals have a slightly different gait. They will move their front left and then their front right, and the back feet then follow those actions, but they don't go at the same time, because I don't know if you've ever tried it. I want you to try it maybe after we finished here, is to go outside and try and swing your left arm with your left leg and then walk with your right arm and your right leg and feel how uncomfortable it feels. And that's because you're going to be completely unbalanced. The difference with the giraffe is that because it walks like that, it has to walk like that because otherwise it kicks itself, and so it has a long neck that helps with it being able to actually stop the giraffe from falling over. So as the left legs, let's say, move, so we'll have the left side of the body will move and the right, or the neck will shift to the right, and so then the body is quite centered and it balances quite well. So basically the neck goes that way, the legs on this side move, these legs start moving on the right, and the neck then starts to shift to the left a little bit, and so it all is nice and balanced. It really is quite amazing to watch giraffe. They are one of the animals that probably have the most unique things about them out here because of their size and their shape. They have to have a lot of different things in order to be able to survive. Now, I doubt that this giraffe will drink. I think it's going to, unfortunately, head off into the thickets and probably disappear inside here. They have really kind of good camouflage, so once they get inside there, they actually can blend in quite well. You can see there that broken pattern, even it's so tall, is quite difficult to see. Now, Emma, sorry, I missed the name. If you can just give me the name, I got the question. Gizmo, I think it is. Gizmo, if a giraffe falls, does it have difficulty to get Gizmo. If a giraffe falls, does it have difficulty to get up? Yes, a lot of difficulty. And it's one of the ways that lions will actually hunt giraffe, is that instead of jumping on the giraffe, they sometimes try to chase them down steep banks or areas that are very uneven ground, so lots of rocks and those kind of things, and the giraffe then trips and falls. And once it falls, it takes a lot of effort to swing its neck back up, and it also means that the lions take away the giraffe's biggest defense, or two biggest defenses. One is that when it's not upright, it can't see as much, and two, it can't kick. Those big long legs can really kick and can actually kill a lion if it kicks it in the face. And so once it's down, the giraffe's legs are out of the equation and they can run up and grab it by the neck. It's much easier. So lions will do that to giraffe. They'll try to chase them. Also, you'll find with giraffe, when they cross rivers, they do it very slowly because of their top heaviness. Sometimes they'll actually slip on slippery rocks and fall over, and they'll drown in water that's this deep, which is pretty insane, because most animals in water this deep would just get up and walk away, but a giraffe struggles to get its stance, and because of its heavy weight, it slips and slides, and they can drown in very, very shallow water. So they have to be really careful when they are crossing any watery places and in walking anywhere near rivers, because otherwise they can get themselves in a lot of trouble. Right, our giraffe is disappearing, but I want to just have a little look around here, because this morning we had a leopard in this area that was walking around in this thicket, and so I want to try and see if I can find the leopard that is somewhere inside here. It's going to take maybe me walking around a little bit, and so what I'm going to do in the meantime while I look around here is that I'm going to send you across back to Brent, who I think is still with his lions, and I'm sure he's going to be sitting patiently with them, because as the afternoon comes in, so we're going to see a number of the animals probably moving around to go towards water and to feed, and those lions will then use the cover of darkness and the late afternoon sun in order to be able to hunt.
Well, we've got some zebra. Aren't they beautiful animals? And there's always the old joke that it's a horse that forgot to take its pajamas off. Of course, they are part of the horse family, but they're much more closely related to donkeys than horses. And each zebra has a unique set of stripes. So there's not one zebra that is the same as another. And they are enjoying the lovely lush grass of the Masai Mara. And way in the distance, I think I can see some wildebeest as well. See them there, Manu, on the ridge. Looks like wildebeest from here. Maybe those wildebeest will go towards the lions a little bit later, but for now they're nice and safe where they are. Now, zebras are what we call bulk grazers, so they are not fussy eaters, and they will munch on all sorts of grass. So, unlike other species like wildebeest and Topi that we were looking at earlier, they are far more selective grazers. They're a bit fussier eaters. Now, it's very difficult to tell if zebra are sick because of their stomach system. They are hind gut fermenters, so they always look fat. But the one way to tell if a zebra is sick, if you look at its mane falls down. Oh, cheeky little one, little kick there. They are very, very beautiful. And you can see their tails swishing away. That's to keep the flies away. And you'll also notice that they shake their head quite a bit sometimes, or their ears, and that's also to get the flies away. There's some nasty biting fly species that tend to focus on their ears and their bottoms. Well, let's leave our lovely zebras and go see what other wonderful creatures we can find. Hello, Andrea. An excellent question. Can you use zebras like you do horses? No, you can't. It has been done in the past before. But zebras do not have very strong backs, so they can't be loaded to for people to sit on. And the other thing is, they do not have great stamina. So horses have been bred to be able to take heavy loads. Donkeys have been bred to have great stamina while carrying heavy loads. So what happens is the zebras normally die. They're also very, very temperamental. They can be very angry. They bite and kick a lot. So they do not make good domestic animals. People have tried in the past, and it was found that it didn't work. They would often die before you'd even had a chance to try train them to carry anything. Okay, I think I'm going to head back towards the river to go check on what my Topi friends are getting up to, and maybe see if those lions have woken up a little bit. Now, can you believe that we are over 2,000 kilometers away from where James and Tristan are in South Africa? So we're going to keep checking around here, see what we can find. I thought there'd be some Thompson's gazelles, unfortunately not. There are some big storms brewing around, so we might even get a little bit wet later. Maybe let's go look at some hippos down near the river while we go check on the Topis. Hello, Gizmo. Gizmo's got an excellent question about the crocodiles we saw a bit earlier. What is the lifespan of a crocodile? In captivity, the Nile crocodile has been recorded to be living up to about 120 years. So they are very, very long-lived, the Nile crocodiles. Most of the very big ones you'll be looking at here in the river are probably around 80 or 90 years old already. They grow very fast in their first 2 years, and then after about 10 years their growth rate slows down quite a lot. Now it also depends on where the crocs are. So crocodiles like here in Kenya along the Mara River where they have a massive amount of food during the migration season, tend to grow bigger and fatter and faster than, say, a crocodile living in an area that doesn't have a lot of large mammal food, and they have to rely mostly on fish. Okay. What is going on here? Okay. Let's try see what other animals we can find down by the river. Okay, while I keep searching, let's send you back to my friend James.
Well, yes, we are still searching. I've just been off the car searching on my feet, and my feet tell me that there is a leopard that has walked down through this riverbed up into a rather nasty thicket over here. And so we'll see if we can't just poke our heads over the top and get very lucky and have a look-see. There's some very thick bush here. And that makes it quite difficult to see them. But let's see what else we can find as we go. Hello, Alan. You're interested in road maintenance, which is quite interesting. Yes, the roads are maintained. They're maintained by a fellow called Rexon, who does a very good job of maintaining the roads here. He builds berms to ward off the water when the rains come. He grades them. And, well, it takes quite a lot of work, really, to make them work properly. Anyway, now the last tracks that I had headed up into this little area over here. So we'll just stick our noses in there, because that's what we saw. And we might be very lucky. So the tracks do not cross over this road. In other words, I can't see any footprints to show that the leopard may have crossed over that road, but I can see some footprints coming into this area here. Now, it's quite possible that I've missed some footprints, of course, and that is because leopards' footprints are very difficult to see. They're not easy to see at all. Let's hope we don't come a cropper here, as they say. Whoops, the daisies. No, we're fine. Now, we need to be very careful and look out for some spots. Yellow, black, and white in this thickety area here. Could there be a little leopard or two? We'd also be listening out for birds that might be alarm calling, so they may have seen the leopard and they would be going zip, 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 zip. They don't like to see leopards like we do. So let's stop and listen and see if we can hear any birds. There is a bird calling. It's called a white-browed scrub robin. It's going. That's not an alarm call. Oh, there's a nice bird. Very nice. But it is very quiet now. All right, gone away now. We'll just try a little bit further on and down here. Let's see, we'll just have one last look down here, and then I think we'll probably try and go somewhere else and see. In the meantime, let's go across to Tristan. He's also looking.
Well, good luck, James, and I hope that you find what you're looking for. So looking around in the thickets for, well, the son of the leopard that James is trying to find. So we're looking for little Hosanna, who is about a 2.5-year-old male leopard that is, like I said, the son of Tingana. And he was seen this morning in this area, and so we're just having a look around. He likes to hide out in the shade during the hot part of the afternoon, and then from there he starts to walk around. And I'm guessing that if we don't find him now, as the sun starts to get a little bit lower, just before sunset, and it gets a little cooler, that's when we're going to start to see him potentially moving about and hopefully finding himself a nice place to come out onto the road that I can then actually find his tracks and then find him. Last time I heard bushbuck alarm calling from him was quite early this morning. It was about 8 o'clock was the last time I heard any alarm calls from our camp, because we're right next to our camp, and it makes it very easy for him to kind of find nice places to hide. But before we carry on, there's a beautiful bird in front of us. So there's what looks like a greater blue-eared starling, and look at those colors. Isn't that magnificent? It's beautiful when the sun is shining. These birds really kind of iridesce. There's beautiful blues and greens, and we know it's a greater blue-eared starling because if you have a look at this bird's head, hopefully it's going to turn its head towards us. You see it's got a bright orange eye. So that means that it already takes away one of the starlings that we see here, called a Birchall starling. Now I'm actually just trying to see if it does have the blue ear. It actually doesn't. So or does it there? Now it's turning. Difficult to see the way that it keeps turning. I just want it to turn once more. And I'll show you why it's difficult to tell the difference between two different birds here. One is called a glossy starling. No, it is a greater blue-eared. It's got that little blue section behind the eye that makes it a greater blue-eared. The Cape glossy starling doesn't have that, and it also tends to be a little more on the greener side than these guys. Now, they're quite common out here, and they are a beautiful bird, but they're actually not that color. Now, you might say that's shocking. Why is this bird not actually blue? It looks blue. Well, that's because it is reflecting light. So the way that the feathers are designed, they basically reflect light in a very odd way. And so these birds are actually black. If it's very overcast and cloudy, you won't see too much of those blues. In fact, the bird will be much darker. But as you start to see a bit of light coming onto them, so we start to see these kind of beautiful colors come out. So basically this is what we're looking at. This is what's called the Cape glossy starling. So this is the one that looks very similar, but you'll notice here it's got this yellow eye, and then there's no blue around the ear at all. So it's got a kind of clean head. Now if I go to the next one, which is the greater blue-eared, you see what I'm talking about? It's got this little mask that comes down and goes there. So that little section is what we look for when we're trying to identify the two of them. It looks a lot more pronounced in these drawings of this bird or paintings. It's not quite the same in real life. It can be quite tricky to identify the two of them, but really, really pretty bird that we get out here. They're very common, so sometimes people don't really pay much attention to them, but I think they're actually quite wonderful and thoroughly enjoy spending some time looking at them. Right, now they are going to be all over the place this afternoon. I'm sure we'll see some more of them as we go. It's also just flowing off. And so we're going to keep looking around. I'm actually going to head to one of our big dams that is in the northwest corner for a bit, because I think our leopard will come out a little later. And in the meantime, I'm pretty sure that maybe we'll get lucky with some ellies that might be going for some water. So I'm going to go and try and check if I can find some elephants at that big dam. Hopefully it will work, and we'll get to show you guys ellies, because they're some of my favorite animals. I love spending time with elephants, and that's kind of where we're going to be heading, and hopefully going to be successful in finding what we're looking for. But it is a most beautiful day. Sweet history, unfortunately, which we'll never hear the end of, was Brent Leo Smith that won the birding challenge. But I will contest that, given the fact that we are in winter, given the fact that we are in thicker, denser areas, and that we did not go to the river or any water like Brent did, because he did go to water, and given that we spent our afternoon, Sydney and I, following two leopards around for the most part, the fact that we lost by only 3 birds, I think, was pretty sharp. So we got 14 and Mara got 17. So I feel like it was a close call, and had we just not been with the leopards, I think we could have won that one quite easily. What do you think, David? Yeah. I think so too. So Brent, while he has a victory, it is a very shallow victory, I'm afraid. And so for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, yesterday was Brent's birthday. And so for Brent's birthday, he said he wanted to have a birding challenge. And so we had to get birds on camera, and try and see if we could show as many birds as possible. And we didn't actually get that many. Normally, if we do a birding challenge for 3 hours and we focus on birds, then we should get close to 40 bird species in the summer months, at least on camera, which is pretty good. So, we I suppose need to work on that. Also, the fact that we didn't go to water points doesn't help, because water is going to have a lot more birds at this time of the year than, just the bushy areas. But anyway, it's Brenty won, so we'll give him his birthday win for now. We will have a repeat of our bird challenge at some point soon, and then it's going to be quite interesting. Now, the thing is that Brent also saw a bird yesterday, which I am waiting for him to confirm an ID on. He says imperial eagle. I looked at the photos, and I don't think he's far wrong. It looked very imperial eagle-ish, but I wonder if he's had any confirmation. I think he was going to send it to some other people just to see what they thought and what they said, but I'm quite keen to kind of know whether or not it was confirmed as an imperial eagle, because that's a very, very, very rare bird for out this way, and we've been very lucky to have been able to get it. Right, now no tracks for our leopard coming up here anyway, so we'll keep going towards the dam like I was saying. And so while we do that, let's send you back across to Brent to let us know whether or not it was indeed an imperial eagle, or if maybe we just misidentified it and gave it the wrong name.
Well, we haven't had a response on the eagle yet, so I've sent it through to some experts and I'm waiting to hear their feedback. But there we go, we finally found the Thompson's gazelle, another lovely little antelope species that lives here in Kenya. This is a male, and he's by himself at the moment, so he's not a dominant male, and he doesn't have any girlfriends. Shame, poor guy. I think they're incredibly cute. Now, we're talking about the zebras and their tail. You can see the Thompson's gazelle has quite a long tail compared to its body size, and that is again for the flies. Oh, I've spotted something very cool. One of my favorite little critters, and they're always fun to watch. There's a nice big group of banded mongoose foraging around here. Now, the banded mongoose are incredible little hunters. They'll dig up all sorts of little insects, sometimes even small mice or rodents. There they are. You can see that one digging. And they will use their nose to find food. They'll also use their ears if they hear insects moving under the ground. How cool is that? Dig. Now you'll notice there's some smaller ones there. Those are actually youngsters, and sometimes their adults will actually dig out some food for the little ones. Now, they've got to be very careful, and you'll notice some of the adults jump up and look to the sky every now and then, because the biggest threat to these little guys is birds of prey, martial eagles and other big eagles. That is their biggest threat. So every now and then you'll notice one of them will jump up on its back legs, have a quick scan around, make sure that there's no big predators close by or predators in the air. They live in very tight-knit little family groups, and they'll sleep in burrows during the night. They'll have multiple burrows throughout their territory that they will also use to hide in if there is a predator around. So they'll scurry off and disappear underground to protect themselves. Now, believe it or not, while I was growing up, I've had banded mongoose as pets. And you would think they are quite nice pets. They are not. They can be quite angry, make lots of funny noises. And as I said, they live in very, very tight-knit little family groups. So if you do ever have one as a pet, it immediately assumes you are part of its family group. So it will mark its territory on you. Our first one's name was Monty, and the second one we had, its name was Lord Montague. Okay, well, let's leave the little mongooses to carry on their foraging and go see if we can find some hippos next to the river. While we do that, let's send you across to James.
Right, we have got here our first proper animal of the day. Well, we had some impala earlier. This is a bigger version, I suppose you might say. It is called a kudu. And that's a female kudu. She's standing in the shade, and she's standing in the shade because really it is very hot today. Very hot indeed. We're trying to stay cool, and we're also sitting in the shade. I'm afraid I didn't find any further tracks of that leopard, and I thought to myself, you know what? Let's go off and see what else we can find. Because watching us drive around looking for footprints is not great entertainment. So now we have some kudus. And there's another one coming, which is very nice. They live in these little groups, and those little groups help them to stay away from predators, and although they're almost a perfect sort of size for a lion to eat, we very seldom see them being eaten by lions here, and I'm not really sure why. They seem to be very good at avoiding the lions that come around here. Here comes the third one in the group. They don't need quite as much water as the impala do. Remember, we saw the impala to start with sitting by the waterhole. And that's because they are much better adapted to living in drier conditions, and they'll go sometimes a day or two without water. They get a lot more water from their food than the impalas manage to. You can see that one there is eating leaves, and those green leaves have quite a lot of water in them. And then, I don't know if you know what kidneys are, but kidneys are the things basically that filter your blood. And in us, in human beings, we are not very good at stopping water from going out of our kidneys, and that's because we drink a lot, and so we don't really have to be able to filter a lot of water out. But in something like a kudu, they are really good at making sure that they don't waste any water in the body, and so their kidneys are designed slightly differently from ours, and that means that they don't need to drink as much as we do. That one is also eating leaves, not from grass. It's just found some green leaves on the ground. And interestingly, kudus really struggle to eat grass. They have a special kind of digestion that is designed for eating leaves from trees. Oh, I didn't mention this, Catherine. It's a very good question. You say, why are there birds all over the kudus? Those special birds are known as oxpeckers. Now, an oxpecker is a very special bird, a little bit like a starling, that sits on animals and it takes off the ticks and other parasites that might be on the skin. And so what that oxpecker is doing is trying to get hold of ticks, because the ticks suck blood out of the kudu. And there's nothing an oxpecker likes more than a bit of blood for breakfast. But they're very helpful to the kudus, we think, because they take all the ticks off. So even though they take the ticks because they like blood, that's not a bad thing for the kudu. And you'll find those special birds on just about all of the herbivores out here, with the notable exception of the elephants. Elephants don't like oxpeckers, and they won't tolerate them. I'd quite like to have an oxpecker, because I think it would be quite nice and ticklish to have it crawling around on my body and taking off any ectoparasites I might have. I hope I don't have too many ectoparasites. There's also a very special bird. Senzo, I'm not sure if you can see it just over the top of my head. There's a blue-black bird. Can you see it there? There we are. Beautiful, and that's called a green woodhoopoe. It's not green at all, so I don't know why it's called a green woodhoopoe, but a lot of the people who name birds aren't very clever. and so unfortunately they have silly names. It used to be called the red-billed woodhoopoe, which makes a lot of sense because it's got a red bill. And that bill is very clever. It's long and it allows the bird to probe, that means sort of dig, I suppose, underneath the bark of the trees that it's sitting on, and there it will find termites or beetle grubs or caterpillars maybe, or spiders or very small scorpions. Very nice. We're going to carry on our search, maybe sit here a little bit longer while we do that. Brent Leo Smith, all the way up in the Masai Mara, has managed to find himself an animal that is doing what I would very much like to be doing, and that's lying in the water.
Well, that's the wonderful thing about the river. You can always find some hippopotamus lounging about in the water. They spend most of their day in the water. And they'll come out at night to feed, and they feed on grass. And look at that, he's got a little hitchhiker, common sandpiper. Oh, he's gone. No, he's moved to another hippo. It looks like, yes, a common sandpiper. Might be feeding off little insects and stuff that are on the hippo. It's also a very safe place to have a drink from, because nothing's going to mess with the big bad hippos. Catherine is wondering what crocodiles like to eat the most. I can't see any crocodiles here. But most crocodiles, if they are small, they eat fish. And the bigger ones will eat fish as well. But also wildebeest and zebra and gazelles and topis and even a lion if they catch one. Oof. The hippos are enjoying the fact that it's cooling down. And have them talking to each other. And they'll be getting ready to go out and feed. Now, let's go down next to the river a little bit more. There were some more lions around here on the other side of the river a little bit earlier today. We can't see them now. We'll see if we can spot them again. Okay, dokie. Probably hiding in these thickets here somewhere, waiting for some poor animal to come past. Maybe they've walked down this way, so we're going to do the same, see if we can see them from this side of the river. Whoopsie. Okay, well, I concentrate on not getting stuck here. Let's send you back to South Africa and James.
Now we are back on the trail of our leopards. We've got a bit of help from somebody in front of us here. He looks like he spotted something. I wonder if it's the leopard. It would be very exciting if in our last few minutes we managed to show you the leopard. I'm not sure that it is the leopard though. You got her? Oh, an owl. Okay, there's an owl in there, which we'll try and see a bit later. Thanks, guys. Apparently this is where the leopard went into the drainage line. And the drainage line is another way of saying a river. Anyway, let's carry on along here. Ooh, there's some tracks, but those are old tracks. What else can we spot here before the end of our kids' drive? We did have a warthog around here as well, which would be very nice. But I don't see any warthogs now. And also we might find something underneath these bushes over here. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. At least we got some good stuff up in East Africa. Nice giraffe here, a couple of kudu, some impala. No leopard this week, but you must join us next week and you might be very lucky. Oh, another 30 seconds. How fantastic. It's always nice to have two 30 seconds. All right, we'll see you next week. So join us again for this lovely kids show on Saturday next week. Until then, well, have a good week. Bye-bye.